Welcome to Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view, from the Casablanca studio in Golden, Colorado. Hosted by Art Carlson. At 4'6", liberals fear him, and conservatives love him. He's definitely a giant among men. Now here's your host, Art Carlson.
Yeah, welcome to Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view. We've got a great show today. We got a full house today. We've got Lloyd and Mike coming up in a second here. We're going to be talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and how that's going. And then we're going to talk about the January 6th hearing going on at the Capitol and how that's going. And then we're going to finish out the show with President Biden farting and pooping his way through Europe. So let's get this show going, and let's bring up my co-host all the way from Muskogee, Oklahoma, the effervescent Lloyd Mendenhall.
Hello, Art. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Got a frog in my throat. I think I swallowed Kermit. Anyways. Yeah, you eat frog legs down here in Oklahoma and you end up getting a frog in your throat, I guess. You know, maybe that's what it was. Anyways, yeah, so everybody's kind of on a post spin up high this week, I noticed, or this last week.
Right.
And it was a great thing to see. And of course, I'm I've been watching little bits here and there about in the news, seeing all the craziness and stupidity going on with those idiots in Washington. You know, it's just every day I was like, really? You know, really? Even my dummy, even old Joe, he's getting fed up with it, you know. And he's nothing but a head full of gears and wheels and strings, and even he's fed up with it.
All right, speaking of gears and string, let's welcome all the way from Syracuse, New York, the strong man of conservative talk. Let's welcome Mike Roach. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
All right, I'm good. How are you?
Can't complain.
I'm hanging in.
Yeah.
I was out flying earlier today and froze my ass off.
Yeah, it's definitely here in the East Coast. It's like 45 degrees out and kind of damp and dank, and typical. It's mid-November, so it's just normal.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
And but yeah, I've been watching some of the post spin up stuff there. I would have loved to have gone, but traveling's such a hassle.
Yeah.
And not so much for the big speakers and all that. Those guys, we see them anyway. But for the camaraderie of meeting all us other guys, we just never really get, we can't meet in any other way. But flying to Austin, that's a big deal. I'm glad you got to go, though, Art.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Bill Ronayne of Uncle Bill's Toys, he drove me around in this Mustang that he rented. Yeah, that's a neat little car, but it's a pain in the butt for me to get in and out.
Yeah.
Because you got those bucket seats sitting way down there.
Yeah.
Well,
next year, if Judy's health is better, I now have a vehicle I'm very comfortable in driving. So, we have got a new, it's new to us. It's 2019 Dodge Caravan GT. So it's
nice.
Yeah, it's a sweet ride. It's a nice setup, and waiting. Hopefully this week the VA will get in touch with me. I've already called them about it, and they'll come pull the lift out of the old van and either transfer it to the new one with the new hardware, or they'll take the old one in and replace it with a brand new one. I don't know how they're going to do that. So either way, either way, they're going to provide us with, a lift so we can have Judy's lift or my scooter, depending on whether I'm needing to use it or whether, whether I'm by myself and I use my scooter or whether Judy's with me. But yeah, so.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen those lifts before, Lloyd. I've seen other people use them, and they can be a little tricky. I know it's like you got to get it just right to get it swing it into the car, right?
Yeah, well, the way
and all that.
Ours will go in the back. Basically, Judy can get up into the driver's seat, and then we'll have a wheelchair lift that comes out of the back. It has third row seating, which is already folded down. It has stow and go, so already folded down. What they'll do is just put the mechanism over the top of it and bolt it into a couple of lugs there, and it'll be ready to go. So
yeah, cool.
Last time they did it, it took them about 20 minutes to put the whole thing in there.
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed with it, but yeah, so they'll use the same company. We'll be okay. So
cool.
But anyway, so maybe next year we can get to go to Spin Up. Then we'll have a vehicle that's dependable.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, let's get this shindig on the way, and let's start off with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. What are your thoughts of the prosecution? I mean, this guy is an idiot.
That's pretty much my thoughts too. I watched it while they were the lift door on our van it had some damage to it, and they'd replaced parts of it, and it was off kilter, so they had to readjust it. Is all they had to do. It popped open a couple of times, and it wouldn't suck down in place. So while they were doing that, I was sitting there watching the whole, watching that afternoon's worth of trial, and that guy was he was a village idiot. I just shook my head and go, really? I mean, and the stuff he was saying, like, first off, why the big goof up was, why didn't you speak out before now? Well, it's his Fifth Amendment right not to speak out. Like that right there could have been declared a mistrial and probably should have been.
Yep.
Right now for the prosecution, a mistrial would be the best thing they could have happen.
Yeah. Then they could retry him again.
Yeah. Unless it's mistrial with prejudice or something like that.
Yeah, if
I know the judge doesn't want to decide the case.
Well, yeah, if the I saw that, I just saw it come up, and I had to look see who put it up there. I was thinking, what village idiot we got in here? It's just dog.
I'll wear that badge proudly.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's right. I got my Let's Go Brandon shirt on.
Yeah. Well, my dummies decided, because he was named Old Joe before the idiot was in the White House, and I got him sent to me. And he's insulted by the name of Joe now, so he's wanting to change his name to Lesko.
Oh, there you go.
And his last name would be Brandon, Lesko Brandon. Right. So it's but no, this prosecutor. I mean, I watched a lot of post trial stuff. The thing that there's a couple of people saying that he may get found guilty on lesser charges. I
don't know. Even those, I mean, he did have a permit to, hunting permit, and I think, and he took all the classes, so he may not get convicted on those charges as well.
Well, go ahead.
One thing impressing me, guys, I'm sorry, Lloyd, to interrupt, but one thing impressing me is the judge. This guy, Kyle Rittenhouse, was tried guilty and hanged in the town square already in the town, public opinion. But now he's getting a chance to have a trial, and this judge is not being partial to Rittenhouse, but making sure, like, he's not going to let this pretrial stuff already have him guilty until proven innocent, and really sticking up for his constitutional rights and trying to keep the prosecution in check. And he seems to be a little more like he'll want it to be all or nothing, in terms of the verdict. I hope, because they were arguing about barrel length of the gun and all this stuff the other day in terms of when they charged the jury. And, it's like, I think the judge is trying to set it up so, like, he either murdered the people or didn't. And that's the question. The other thing are incidental,
Yeah, it was self-defense.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was trying, what was it, prosecution trying to insinuate you can't kill somebody with a skateboard?
Right. Well, doing no problem.
Not just that, but one of the guys did point a gun at him. He was in fear of his life.
That was the guy that he shot.
And I watched, I can't remember who it was now. They were talking and they said their initial reaction was, well, this guy chased Kyle. What they assumed, and the way the reports were first shown, Kyle Rittenhouse chased this guy down and shot him. But it turns out that it was Kyle Rittenhouse was running away from the crowd, not trying to chase them down and hunt them down and kill them, but trying to get back to save his own life. And it wasn't until he was, on the ground and in fear of his own life, being hit with the skateboard, which guaranteed that could kill him if they hit that carotid just right, or hit the neck just right. They could break the neck, Mike. You
or
would
the
understand
temple.
that. Or the temple, or anywhere. Yeah, there's any number of things. You can take, those skateboards. My son used to, back in the day, back when skateboarding was really big, back in the late 80s, early 90s, he used to ride those things. I guarantee you, I've gotten caught in the shin a few times where I was standing out there and he went off one direction, a skateboard come flying at me, and those things hurt. And they being hit in the neck. I mean, these are you see where he's hit, and it's one of the softest spots in the neck region, and it doesn't take much sometimes.
And it wasn't like the guy was going to stop either.
No, he just
was going to be multiple whacks,
multiple hits. You
and
take
swarmed.
And this prosecutor he's just a. And on top of the fact that he has alienated the judge, by they all keep saying, you don't want to get sideways of a judge when you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney for that matter. And you notice it's not the defense attorney that's getting chewed out. He's doing his job, and all the judge wants is for them to be, for it to be a fair, straight up trial. And if he decides to, like we said earlier, if he decides to declare it a mistrial after hearing, and it may depend on what's in the closing arguments, on the defense side, he may just say, okay, we're dismissing this with prejudice, enough is enough. And, but I watched it, and the other thing that impressed me is Kyle Rittenhouse himself.
Yeah.
That is that young man is very prepared. He looked at the, every time they brought up something about images and stuff, he got up and walked around there and looked at the defense attorney's computer. He was very, very succinct. And some of the reporters on the left said, those are, who was it? Who was it that said that he those were crocodile tears?
LeBron James.
LeBron James.
Oh yeah.
LeBron James. He needs to learn to shut his mouth. Somebody needs to, take him to the woodshed, maybe. Because
when Rittenhouse broke down that first time when he was speaking there, and he's trying to talk about when he was being surrounded. He's been silent now for going on a year. And all of a sudden, here's this chance to speak. of course, those emotions are going to come pouring out. And, the judge did the right thing, stopping it, giving him a chance to compose himself. All of us, I think, would have had a similar reaction.
I've seen hardened, seasoned. I tell you what I saw. A friend of mine, his father was a Marine, and he'd passed away, and they had a Marine colonel present the family with they actually presented 3 flags, one to the widow and one to both of the grown sons. One of the grown sons was my friend, and I looked around there that day as they were doing that, and the honor guard, they weren't Marines, they were, I don't know, veterans, VFW or somebody like that, and they folded the flag, and then they turned around and handed it to this colonel, and this full bird colonel in full dress with all of his medals comes over, kneels down, and presents the flag. I looked around there of all the men that were standing, and of course we were all saluting the flag as they did that. I saw some really tough, grizzled old veterans that had tears going down their eyes, just running down their face. That kind of situation, when you see, when you've lived through something like that or been in a situation like that, that's emotional. And for that kid being that age, if that's, he's in therapy for PTSD. They did mention that. And it's understandable. He killed people. And that's the problem. That prosecutor probably has no friggin' clue what that feels like. It is an emotional reaction. And when you have to describe that on top of all the other pressures he's dealing with of fighting for his life, right. Of course it's going to be emotional, and that prosecutor is just a friggin' idiot, Yeah.
And
that's like
people like LeBron James, multi-millionaires, he's not out in those streets dealing with Antifa and BLM rioters. He can just, the NBA and the NFL and all the rest of them have lost me. They're done as far as I'm concerned.
Same here.
I would have more respect for them if they were marching at the front, in those situations. If they were standing up front shouting, holding up signs and doing that. Not burning down buildings, but protesting. If I see LeBron James out there protesting, well, I might have more respect for his values, but I wouldn't. I don't agree with him, but I would respect it more. And that's the difference between most conservatives and liberals. Is liberals don't respect our points of view, but we can respect them for their opinion. That's they have a right to their opinion. Maybe a wrong one, but they have a right to it. But they don't think we have a right to it.
He can just shut the F up because he keeps blabbing anyway about so many things. He's got to shut up. Let's talk about.
So, what you think about the prosecution bringing up video game, especially Call of Duty? And I thought Kyle was brilliant. He really took it to him when you asked him about Call of Duty and how, the object is to shoot people, kill people. And he came back and he says, yes, but I know that's make-believe. So he really zinged the prosecution with that one. And
it was here's a little known gaming fact, because my wife and I used to we ran a gaming website, and we played Call of Duty and all that. There was one game, it was free. You could go down to your local recruiter, your Army recruiter, and they'd give you the disc. You put it in your PC, you load it up, and then you start playing. That particular game, believe it or not, had triggers, and the idea was to find out if, believe it or not, it's almost like, this is from back in the early 2000s, 2004, 2005. I'd have to stop and think now, but this was a game that was used to test the manual, the dexterity of players. And it reminds you when you go see them, if you've seen the movie Ready Player One, it reminds you very much of that. And we had, we played other games, but there's a lot of guys that played this. I played it for a little while and I realized there was something there that was triggering some problems with me. So I quit. But I noticed everybody who played that game, when they'd get into one of our other games, they'd come in and get on the chat and they'd be angry. So we actually set up rules as if you've been playing that game, you can't play with us tonight. You can't come into our server and play with that. You can play that after we shut down the server for the night. But because I saw it time and time again, but this was developed by the United States Army. This was a development, and it came out later. They, of course, discontinued it because there was a lot of problems with it, because there were subliminal messages that were in this that was triggering people. But it was to see how people would react, and it was a recruitment thing. Okay, get them playing games, and then we'll see how they react to it. We'll trigger them without them knowing about it. And it came out later, and they had to pull that, and they dropped it. But Call of Duty was, I've played that game, and everybody there knows it's make believe. It's Call of Duty's about as real as World of Warcraft. Yeah, we're all fighting a bunch of blood elves out here in the Call of Duty world. Nah, come on, prosecutor's an idiot, and you're right. He Kyle Rittenhouse handled that very well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just thought the prosecution probably studied the OJ trial.
Right there.
Yeah.
They didn't get Judge Ito.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, don't you miss the dancing Itos? Some of these guys in the chat may not remember that, but do you remember the dancing Ito? What was that on David Letterman?
I don't know.
It might have been.
Yeah, had 10 guys that looked like Judge Ito dressed up in robes and doing a line dance thing, and yeah, it reminds you of the good old days,
Yeah.
When trials were fun.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was an example of a judge who was, a lot of people don't remember. It was 20 years ago or 25 years ago.
Yeah.
More than that. Yeah. The judge had no control over what he lost in that courtroom. And where this judge seems to be well in command, and and understanding it's the burden of proof is on the prosecution, and innocent until proven guilty, and but he's also stepping back and playing fair with them too. So he doesn't want to be overturned in some way, or give the prosecution a chance to appeal in some way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. And I don't think he wants it into a mistrial, because he doesn't want to see this, because under another judge, if mistrial under another judge, it could go badly for Kyle. His constitutional rights would probably end up being trumped on. This judge has been very fair, and that's what judges are supposed to do.
Yeah, that's right.
They're
supposed to be impartial and leave their feelings aside, just let it play out like it should be. Alrighty, so let's go on to our next topic, the hearings on January 6th. The Democrats are calling it an insurrection.
Yeah.
Which is it's a bunch of baloney. I listened to this talk show host, Michael Brown. He's a local talk show host. You probably remember the name. He worked with FEMA under Bush. He was the one that got thrown under the bus about Katrina.
Oh, who was that? What's his name?
Michael D. Brown.
Oh, yeah,
he was head of Homeland Security, undersecretary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do remember that. Yeah.
He was talking about, they're calling it an insurrection when, in fact, a lot of those protesters, they were let in by the police.
Yeah. There's something really wrong with that whole thing. Remember when we were younger, remember the show, The FBI, with Ephraim Zimbalist and stuff? We used to look at these federal agencies with as something to look up to and with respect. Right. And now I'm nothing but suspicious of the FBI and the CIA and the deep state, as it's come to be known. Those words sound a little paranoid, but the more I found out about this January 6th stuff, the more it seems there's something to that. There's something really wrong about the way the security was handled and who was antagonizing people to go in to begin with. They like you said, Art, they were let in many cases. There were some that smashed windows and stuff. And notice they looked totally different than the rest of the crowd too. They came in the black bloc, as they call it, I think, like Antifa dresses. So there's something really wrong there.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the stuff coming up about the Steele dossier, I mean, how can you trust the FBI after that? I mean, so them, whatever they're talking about, and it wasn't an armed insurrection. Nobody went in, I think they're overusing that word, to say the least. Yeah, it was a violent protest. But how many police stations have they burned down in, across the United States?
Right.
As a good thing on Fox Nation about, okay, Mason, I'll check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, and there were some people that were antagonizing the crowd. It turns out they were under what's called a false flag. And the people that were there, a good majority of them, they were trying to tell everybody, no, don't do that. Don't go there. But it was just a handful of people that it just got riled up, and that's how it got out of hand.
Well, I have an old acquaintance and service buddy, and I know him. We didn't even realize we were in the same. We were actually in some of the same places together, and I didn't. Looking back now, I said, "Oh, now I know who that guy is." But anyways, he was there, not at the Capitol, not at the White House or at the Capitol building, but he was out front, and he was doing live streaming, and I was watching, and for the most part, where he was at and most of the people there wasn't this great rush to the front. It was like there was a small, relatively speaking, a small group that went in there that did this,
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way
you're right, that was Ashley Babbitt, I believe, that was killed. Yeah.
And an Air Force veteran on top of that. It's just
that's right.
And the whole way they're treating the Trump people as if they, caused it, and then they've got Bannon's going to turn himself in tomorrow. But
is he?
Going after the past administration, all to distract from their own problems, really.
Right.
But it reminds me of like a Stalinistic. We're going to go after the vanquished last, people that we took over from, and it's like, what's next? Shooting the Tsar and his family? I mean, it's really, really disturbing to see the party that won and is in power turning around and now going after the other people, and for just on the face of it, but I think they're mainly doing it because the more the mainstream media focuses on that, the less there is on inflation and the border and China and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time you heard much about the people that are still in Afghanistan?
Right.
There's still people stuck there.
Americans.
Yeah. They're still stuck there. You're not hearing about that. This is a distraction. And And our president is just an idiot. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Right. But
and it's all, the Democrats are just beating people, the masses over the head, calling it insurrection. No, these people, they were there protesting the electoral college results.
Right. Yeah.
And
it's
right. A lot of people were shook down by the FBI for just going down to Washington and being anywhere near the Capitol, and then having their laptops taken and all this stuff. And there's still people now that they've got locked up.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Persona non grata, what I mean? And I got to give credit to her, that Congresswoman. Her name's escaping me right now. The blonde-haired woman.
You mean Roberts Green, Tanya Roberts Green, or out of North Carolina?
Yeah, I forget her name. She's all into hunting and everything like that, and but I gotta give her a lot of credit. She got in and talked with them, interviewed them about the conditions that they were. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And she was speaking with them, and it sounds like they're in like ridiculous conditions, and why they're behind bars is beyond me. Well, it's not beyond me because it's, it's a political, persecution, but it's, they shouldn't be locked up at this point.
Yeah, they should have just gotten a bond, paid the bond, and go free. And if there's a trial, then bring them in. But no, this is not a trial. This is a witch hunt.
Yeah.
So,
and it's pretty frightening, the fact that in the USA we allow one group to burn cities and police stations, and another group where they were anywhere near a relatively non-violent situation are locked up and hardly able to get representation. It's pretty
right.
That's not American, man.
No, it is not the United States that we grew up with. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this is so Stalinistic, and you mentioned something about the czar. I remember, Judy likes Downton Abbey, and at one point, one of the guys, he's an Irish Republican. He's started out as their chauffeur and ends up marrying the boss's daughter, and they were talking about the Bolshevik Revolution, and he says, "Well, what about the Tsar and their family? Oh, they're being held prisoners. Surely they're not going to, they're not that bad. It was just a nice little revolution. They're taking down the elitist government and making a government of the people. They won't harm those people. Of course, we all know what happened. And this is the problem that we have with a lot of these people that follow these socialist points of view. They think it's, they're just, like these people out in the left coast, I was like, it's just a protest. It's just a protest. And then they win because they use whatever powers they can. And then all of a sudden they're locking people up because they disagreed with them, and they're holding them as political prisoners. I mean, this is right out of South America. This is, this is Argentina all over again, Yeah.
But, to go after, the past administration like that, it's unprecedented. Even when Trump won in 2016, all the locker up stuff, went away because we all know that was part of a campaign, although way things are getting revealed now, who knows, with Clinton and the dossier there. So.
Yeah, that whole dossier thing is coming out just beyond crazy,
Oh, and they already arrested a Ruski for it.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. There's your Russian collusion right there.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And now we got Russia.
It wasn't Trump that was colluding. It was
That's right.
Hillary
Exactly.
Clinton and Joe Biden.
And Joe Biden. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that seems to be part and parcel with the left. Whatever they accuse you of, they're looking in the mirror.
Usually doing it.
You know?
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they're the ones colluding with the Russians to, hey, you know what? We'll tamp down our oil exploration. So, Russia, it's okay for you to build that pipeline. We'll just cancel the Keystone pipeline.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Right. And the inflation rate right now, I mean, fuel winter, here we go in the heating season. And everyone's heating bills are going to be higher. And gas prices are already way up beyond where they should be. And now we're starting here on the East Coast. Friends of mine are starting to notice the shelves are a little bare in the stores. And it's
even
not
here
just
in Denver.
Yeah. And it's a little scary, It's like we're not starving yet, but there someone I know went to buy a turkey and there weren't any left at Walmart, and it's like it's pretty scary stuff. And the people in charge, they haven't got a clue is how to get things going at all.
Right. Yeah, I just was mentioning it to Judy yesterday because I had to run over and I picked up some stuff from the store the last couple of days. I've had to make a couple of trips because they didn't have certain stuff. I mean, I never thought, and of course, some say the reason they're only stacking the shelves instead of, normally when they run out of an item, they stack a new case of canned goods or whatever in there. They're only doing it 1 or 2 rows deep instead of going all the way to the back of the shelf. That way, there's not as much to run. If you look at that and say, well, there's just a couple left, I don't really need those. Or, they're trying to prevent, because I noticed, like in our stores, these shelves are empty, and then a little while later, you see they've got pallets high full of stuff that they haven't restocked yet suddenly, but there's, believe it, this is kind of silly, but Judy likes those little round white powdered donuts, powdered sugar donuts.
Right.
The chocolate ones with the chocolate icing, it tastes like wax, I don't know what they put in them, but anyways, the Dolly Madison brand. Okay.
Right.
They've been out of the white powdered donuts for weeks. Yeah.
Right.
Little Debbie has them if you can find them, because they put them in their own little space there. So you have to there's a couple bags down there. I'll grab a couple while I'm here. But they've got tons of the chocolate ones, but the white powdered ones and the cinnamon ones, they've been out of them for, I know I've been there 3 or 4 times to that store in the last 2 weeks, and you can't find them at other stores either. And it's just like, I mean, why the hell why are they out of white donuts? I mean, it's like, but they've got plenty of the chocolate ones. Maybe I'm being racist about my donuts. I don't know. Hell.
Well, or it could be the cops. I don't know.
No, I know those donuts you're talking about. I could eat a whole box of those white without
we buy the bags of them, and yeah, it's just like, oh my God, what the hell's the run on the white powdered donuts? Or you get in there and there's only 2 of them, but they're like, you shake them up and you can see they're so dry they're just falling apart, and you're like, yeah, hell.
But
those have been here since
someone
3
might
weeks ago.
say that's silly, okay, whatever, white powdered donuts. But more and more things that we've always taken for granted, they just aren't there anymore. That are usually there, and it's like, and it's getting a little worse as it goes along. And another thing is more like long-term items too. I just had my furnace checked out. Thankfully, my house furnace is fine, but I've got an attached 2-car garage that's also heated. It's got one of those furnaces that hangs from the ceiling, and that the igniter for that's got a problem, and getting the part for that's getting to be a problem right now. Those type of things are gonna, car parts and furnace parts, your hot water tanks, things like that. That could be a real problem for people.
Yeah. I've been shopping for cars for a couple of weeks, and I finally found one that I felt was worth spending money on. I mean, because the only cars they've got out there have got, there are tons of cars with 190 to 290,000 miles on them, and they're 15, 16 years old. It's like, well, hell, I've got a 99 Ford F-150 that only has 92,000 miles on it. And you think, well, they tried like hell to get me to trade that in. I said, hell no, it's paid for. I'm not having, no, here's cash down for this. You guys do take cash. I said, oh yeah, if we're forced to. Of course, he was, the good thing is I did get a new subscriber out of that deal because he's a conservative. And
that's nice.
And that's where I was actually sitting there watching the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. We were talking about it, but it's called Controlling the Masses. You're right, Robert. It is.
Yep.
Nice.
White donuts matter. There you go. That may be what I start putting on my shows. White donuts matter. Because there were plenty of chocolate ones. I'm telling you right now, it was. I don't know if those are white supremacist donuts. I don't know what they call them. I'd call them white powdered donuts, but they were banned from that store, and the only ones they had were the chocolate ones. Or you could get the chocolate and chocolate, which I tried some of those. Let me tell you, they're nasty.
Are those the CRT donuts?
CRT, yeah, CRT donuts, yeah. Because the regular ones, the chocolate ones that are white on the inside, that's not really a true chocolate donut. It's got to be chocolate and chocolate, right? So but they seem to, nobody's buying those
because they got their white privilege.
Yeah, that's it.
Notice how Democrats have Reich privilege.
Democrats have, what'd you say?
Reich.
That's what I thought you said.
Reich.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, they have Reich privilege for sure. Yeah.
Well, and they're all of the right mind.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they are.
Excuse me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back.
All right.
But yeah, it's, you're right. I mean, it's just you take for granted the things that are on the shelf, and then suddenly they're not there. I was telling that to Judy. She says, "You're kidding." I said, "No."
Look at Doc Murdoch. He's got
I saw that 90 Dodge diesel.
I saw that when he came up to Colorado. We went flying. Oh, by the way, Doc, I took the 5-inch out. I couldn't get any good video on it. I think what happened was the guy that repaired it, I think the setting for the milliwatt setting, I think it needs to be readjusted. I think he had either set for 150 or 300. So I need to either put it down to 200 or 100 or 20.
Right.
So I'm going to have to put it on beta flight and
put it on beta flight, make
readjust
sure it's set up right.
the VTX. But let's get back to political stuff. And so President Biden was in Europe, where he went to see the Pope and pooped his pants.
Yeah, it's
and when I first heard that, I'm like, oh, come on, somebody's probably blowing it up, and I guess he really did poop his.
Well, I heard I started hearing people calling President Poopy Pants, and I was like, what the hell? Really? You got to be kidding. And then I read the press release that came from the Pope, in which they stated he had a bathroom accident.
Oh.
The Pope actually announced that, or the Vatican actually announced that they would not be taking live questions and it would be a private setting because the president had a bathroom accident. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he pooped him or peed him, maybe he should wear the pins.
Well, maybe he sharded.
Yeah, he could have sharded because God knows he's been, and then that's the other side of the story is Camilla. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember what. Yeah, but
the
yeah, Camilla
Charles' wife.
Yes, Charles's old mistress.
Yeah.
Now his wife, the Duchess of whoever, Cambridge. Is that it?
Duchess of Donuts, maybe? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. She was Duchess.
So I guess he just let out a big fart in front of the
in front of the Duchess, and from what she wrote, she said it was long and loud.
Oh boy. It couldn't have been that medication he's on it.
It could have been. It could have been.
So the medication that's making him cognizant is making him incontinent.
Yeah. Yeah. He sharts out his mouth daily. It depends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure left everybody with a crappy impression of us, though, didn't it?
Yeah. Right. Well, this you guys remember Andre the Giant?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when he was filming Princess Bride,
Yes,
he let out a 16-second fart, and then I guess the producer said, "Andre, are you okay?" And Andre said, "I am now."
That's legend in WWE, and I mean that's he would do that too. He'd get them pinned down, sit on them, and then just let it rip. He was a legend for doing that. Yeah, yeah, no, and yeah, because I actually had for I don't know about a year and a half. I had a WWE subscription until they started apologizing to Saudi Arabia and all that bull crap, and I said I ain't spending my money on those idiots again. You know, yeah. When they started becoming too, they were. I just didn't agree with
politically correct. We call it. Yeah.
Politically correct. BS is what it is.
Or woke. It's the other term.
Or woke. Yeah, when they started waking up and anyways, that was one of the stories, and of course. There's some bloopers. There's some behind the scenes parts that have come out that you occasionally find it on YouTube, and you'll hear Andre letting it rip on. I think it's from the cutting room floor on the Princess Bride. So yeah, it was, and many of the stars. Yeah, that was. Yeah, he. God, could you imagine as big as he is? That would have.
Oh boy!
Talk about a cheek flutter.
That'll push air out of the room.
Yeah. Oh my God!
Don't light a match.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we got.
Might burn my eyebrows off. Ooh.
Yeah, and that's what we have for a president. That's just
that's
all right.
I guess Biden's never heard of the stuff called Beano.
Beano, yeah. Well, there. I mentioned the gentleman, the Marine that passed away. He quit going out in public because they had him on a cholesterol medicine, I guess, and that was one of the side effects of it. And he wouldn't go in public, So yeah, there's some of those medicines that will cause that. I've never had to worry about that. None of the medicine I have causes that.
Oh, that's.
All mine's natural. As a matter of fact, it's almost legendary in our family that most of the Mendenhall men have that natural reaction. It's like, it's a badge of honor. We fart with the best.
Right.
In the case
frankly,
of the prison,
the more embarrassing thing as an American is, regardless. I mean, he's got the old guy stuff going on physically,
right.
Which is obvious. You can see it in his gait and his walk. And he always tries. Remember the falling down the steps incident on the plane, and he kept trying to make up for it by running back up and falling again. And but it is the cognizant issues when he gets lost, going off on the stories, and Harris frankly does the same thing. She starts telling the story, and next thing she knows, she's in La La Land, or she's laughing about something. Yeah. I mean, we got a real couple weird people
we got
at the helm.
This,
Person not at the helm.
They talked about how bad Grant was, because he was drunk most of the time. I'd take Grant anytime, or hell, I'm almost to the point I wish we had Bill Clinton back in office. At least with Bill Clinton, we knew what the hell was going on. It made all of us that were middle-aged proud that a guy that old could still get him a younger gal. I mean, he was doing what most of us wish we could have done. Like, yeah, he was, Democrat or not, man, he made you. Yeah.
Have you guys seen the commercial with the bent carrot where they're talking about Peyronie's disease? Every time I see that, I keep thinking of Bill Clinton.
Right. Didn't he lean to the left?
Yeah. Well, it's come out that he's got that condition.
Oh, yeah. He, well, I mean, it's Monica Lewinsky went up there as an aide or as an intern, and wanted to be part of the political history. I just don't think she really thought that was going to be the part of history that her name would carry on,
Right. That she was the humidor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
there's a lot of jokes you go on.
You gotta admit, it was real interesting during Clinton's era,
Yeah. Well, on one of the cable channels, I think it's called True Crimes, they're doing a series about Monica Lewinsky.
Really?
So it's a tell-all story, and boy, they've got some pretty interesting actors playing the main characters.
Yeah. Well, at least Bill Clinton, at least when the Republicans came in 94 with Newt Gingrich, and at least he got
with America.
He got back with the program, and he actually got some good things done. Got it, into a good place. Hopefully,
even though they dragged him kicking and screaming, and he finally signed it.
But let's say that this upcoming election, a year from now, the Republicans take both, houses of Congress. How will that go? We're in a different place right now.
Yeah.
And I don't see them.
I think it's going to be total gridlock, which probably be a good thing.
Right. Gridlock could be better than what we got going right now.
Yep.
But in the meantime, things are bad. Things need to get done. And we also got the Chinese over there looking at our country right now and looking at Taiwan and saying, if we're a crouching tiger and we're looking to make a move, when is it we're going to do it? And it's within the next, after the Olympics might be a good time. When they have the Olympics in Beijing, they might feel like freedom to let's take Taiwan if they want to go into battle.
Yep.
Well, and look what Russia's doing right now. They're lining back up on the border of Ukraine. Yeah. They've just reinforced all that. And here's something. Look what China did look what China Disneyland did.
Oh, I heard about that, where they locked up all those people and tested them all.
All those people that went to Disneyland and tested them for COVID.
And there was one person who tested positive.
Yeah.
Wow. But, and I haven't heard a peep out of Disney about that.
Disney's so woke, they don't know what to do with themselves right now. It's just, I try to
the double standards from the media and from big tech and from all those people who supposedly stand up for social issues of being totally quiet in China is glaring. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Disney, did you hear that Mickey Mouse wants to divorce Minnie? Because
I hadn't heard that.
They thought she was being silly, and turns out she was fucking goofy.
I should have seen that one. Did you hear that, Goofy? You're busted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, those companies, though, I've come to really despise them. I was never all into that Disney stuff anyway. But I mean, I look at them now, Apple, Google, all Silicon Valley, all of Hollywood, the stuff that they do to bend over for China, or else they all want the NBA, they want that Chinese market, and they seem to be more concerned about that than America. And good luck. Enjoy your time in China.
Yep. Yeah. And, it's really frustrating. I'm not into the Disney stuff as much as I am into, unfortunately, Disney owns some of the best, best movie companies now. They got they've got Marvel. They've got Star Wars, the whole Star Wars franchise. They've got, let's see, who else?
ABC.
Well,
Yeah,
they got
ABC.
yeah, and they just. I'm trying to think. I guess it's. I'm trying to think who did the original X-Men series and stuff. It's not Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers is owned by HBO now. Which, well, they were owned by Time Warner when Time did the split and split off their, the Warner part. Then HBO took that as kind of and so now, you get two major streaming services now that own just about everything.
Right.
You got Disney and you got HBO, because
Well, what
Time
about
Warner company
Netflix?
split. Netflix is on their own and they're losing. They're a lot of the stuff that they have been putting up is now going back to the parent production company, which is either Ronald McDonald stuck his Big Mac in Wendy's hot and juicy, and they had a quarter pounder. Now, Mason, after that joke Art just told, that's not going to get you banned. But I mean, we're talking everything's going streaming now. Anyways, it's like, as much as I hated it, I signed up for the. I wouldn't buy into, and it's the same company, but I would not get CBS downloaders. Whatever they call it. CBS
now
Plus.
it's Paramount Plus.
Paramount, yeah.
Now it's Paramount Plus. I was okay with that because I was a fan of the UPN network when it was around.
Obama's owner of Netflix. Well, that explains it.
Right.
Well, yeah.
And
And
HBO also owns Turner Classic Movies. Always been my favorite channel for 30 years, and that's becoming a snowflake thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's really,
Now they're saying that Gone with the Wind is racist.
Yeah. And,
Should probably by the middle of next year we should start the book burnings, right? I mean, isn't that when it's going to all start?
Well, Amazon already did that to a certain extent. There was one book they banned from their bookstore. They took a lot of flack for it, about gender stuff. There was a book that contradicted the woke agenda on transgender, this or that and the other, and they removed it from the bookstore, but they got a lot of heat for it, so they allowed it back in. But that's coming in this digital
Dr.
age.
Dr. Seuss quit printing some books,
Right.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And those at the time, but I watched a thing about the man behind the mask, which was about Marvel Comics, in which they have blacks, they have Asians, they have all sorts, and one of the guys is, they were drawing one of the characters. I can't remember who it was. They actually made those characters yellow. They used because, and when they started, like when they brought in the first, can't remember. The Howling Commandos, which is part of another group. Anyways, when they brought them in, they had a black guy on there. The problem was is they didn't know how to make the black ink to make it look properly. So the first few times he was a white guy, and actually the first couple of comics that went out, the inkers thought it was a mistake, and so they drew it in as white, and so or the printers put it in as white because they thought the inkers had used the wrong ink or something. So they had to go back and correct it, but then the way they corrected it is they made it gray because they didn't, we're talking, this is in the late 60s, early 70s when all this started changing so much. And, and all the Asians were literally, yellow. It's like, let's start making them, So you look back, but it was the times and, coming out of World War II and the propaganda of World War II, the evil Japanese, and then right after World War II, then we're fighting the Chinese in Red China in Korea. So,
right,
it was our propaganda machine back then. That's the way it was, but doesn't necessarily mean it's right. But it also doesn't necessarily mean we got to, because doing away with history, you'll tend, if you don't know the history, you'll tend to repeat that. Look at the segregation we've got going on right now.
Right.
And there was a gentleman that just passed away recently. I read about, and he was actually, I think they've just the governor of the state it's coming up before the governor. The parole board has decided to grant him a full pardon, and pardons and parole board in that state retroactively. Now, he died with a felony conviction on his record because he pled guilty to boarding a train that was boarding a white coach rather than a colored coach. And he died with that. Now that, victims of, both sides of that are asking that the governor sign this and give him a full retroactive pardon. He's long since died. He died back in the, because this was before Rosa Parks. This was like, this was before the bus incident. Right. This was back 1946, 47, something like that. Right. Well, and he was one of the earliest people to do that. So, there's been some things, but now they want to go back to that. Critical race theory is nothing but segregation. But then again, the Democrats supported segregation to begin with, and they're wanting to go back to it. Right. But nobody's bothered to figure that part out.
Well, now the parents are. They're the ones squawking about it, and looks like school boards are being, overturned, and conservative school boards are coming in. Wish that would have happened here in Jefferson County, but...
well, look what happened with that election a couple weeks ago.
These school boards, though, man, they've gotten a little too big for their britches. Some of them was it in Loudoun County where they've created like dossiers on some of the parents and stuff like that and looked into
that's because they went to the Attorney General, Garland, and had him declare him as domestic terrorist.
Right. Domestic terrorist, yeah.
And that's frightening stuff. You can't go to your school board meeting and speak up, and you get wrestled down by the cops after your daughter gets raped in the bathroom. This is bizarre.
Yeah, in the school, the I don't know whether it's a teachers union or the National Association of Teachers, they backed off of that. They actually asked them to rescind that, and they didn't do it. And of course, that's part of the reason that election turned out the way it did.
Right.
Where was that? That was in Virginia.
Yep.
Virginia. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Terry McAuliffe thankfully played right into it when he said parents have no place speaking up about their education. He lost the election with that.
Yeah, he did.
And I hope the Republican Party is smart enough to understand that we need to handle. Because the way who won that election? My mind's gone blank now.
No, I forget.
Oh, Youngkin.
The way Youngkin ran that campaign was genius.
How about his running mate? her name is Winsome Smith?
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. I can't, yeah.
She seems pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah. Did you see that picture of her with the AR-15?
No, I hadn't seen that one.
Yeah. Well, she's you can't be a former Marine, but she was once a Marine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, she's a Marine veteran.
That's right.
Yeah, Marine
That's
veteran,
like saying you can't say former gunny, because once you're gunny for life.
Yeah. And but she's a Marine veteran, and it's
yeah.
I was just reading some of the. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat suddenly. My squirrel. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's move along to something else.
Yeah. Well, you guys, we did just a little bit over an hour, and boy, did it fly by.
I'll say.
Wow.
That was a short hour.
Yeah, it sure was. So I want to thank you guys for coming, and the guys in the chat, thanks for coming. Mike, any last words?
No, it's here we are. Thank God we're under a year now to the next election, and I don't want to wish a year away, but in that sense, I do. I look forward to being able to vote again. Unfortunately, I think the next year is going to bring us a repeat of a lot of the crap that preceded the last election. And BLM has already hinted at it in New York City, about saying if you bring the policing back strong, where you can expect blood in the streets, stuff like that. So I think a lot of shenanigans are going to start up again leading into next fall, and I hate to see it. I'd love to be wrong about that, but I'm afraid of
that. Yeah.
Lloyd, any last words?
Well, just that you ought to be thankful that I forgot as much as I did, or this show would have gone on 2 hours. It's like I always say, be kind, treat each other better than you treat yourself. Remember, everybody matters, even forgetful old farts like me.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great Sunday, and see you next week.
Bye, everybody.